Guys, welcome back to Bar Z. My name's Stan, and welcome to part 3 of the do-it-yourself square kit, the grind your own kit. Now, in previous videos, we've done the flat work, where we've ground the webs and the top of the fences on these things. And we've, in part 2, we ground to an inside corner, just on the 90-degree fence side. Put that up against there, you can see the profile there of where you created the relief down inside of this groove right here. All right, so we've done that, and now what we've got is the outer extremes, and I've stoned these down, just give them a quick stoning, and just cleaned them up so I can take a good look at them. But my squares are clean, clean, clean. They've been rinsed in the sink and scrubbed, and rinsed down really good. And all I'm going to use to do the 90-degree side is a pair of 1, 2, 3 blocks that I know and trust to be square. I'm going to show you how to put those on. You need a couple of things. You need a bolt to be able to go through your 1, 2, 3 block. And I use a couple of little, I use these as washers, they're 1/4-inch thick steel with a 1/4-inch hole drilled in them. And that's what pins the squares to the 1, 2, 3 block. And however square your 1, 2, 3 block is, that's how square your squares are going to be after you're done with the grind, because we're going to do the flip trick, and I'm going to show you how to get them on the block. You're doing two things at once. You've already ground this inside fence right here, so you're creating parallel and 90 all at the same time. So these have to go on your 1, 2, 3 blocks very accurately. And there's some setup work here on the plate. It's less than 5 minutes of grinding time, but all your time is here on the plate. And the more time you spend and the closer you get it here on the plate, the better your results are going to be. All right, so I think I'm going to set up the GoPro here on the surface gauge and show you how to get these on get them on your 1, 2, 3 blocks very accurately. This is how they're going to go on. So I've just got one on each side with the 1, 2, 3 block. You see I'm sitting proud up here on top, but I'm also sitting proud this way too. And it's important that you don't get them crooked like this or like this. You have to measure and get this height and this height equal by equal so that they make contact at the same time and you don't end up with one square way smaller than the other. So you have to get them very, very close. Let me get the GoPro set up, and we'll get these things set up on the 1, 2, 3 blocks and ready to grind. Alrighty, well, I'm trying to work around the camera here. I've got both of my squares nice and clean, and all I'm going to do is hook that fence that we've already ground right up against the top of that 1, 2, 3 block. And all I want to do is get started here. I've got my little washer and a bolt. I'm going to put it right through the web, that hole in the web. I'm going to put my other washer on over here. And I'm just going to kind of get started here with a nut and bolt. And we're starting out this eyeball, you know. We're going to keep it down tight here, but this is what we don't want happening. You know, you don't want to end up with one higher than the other. So I'm just going to go finger tight here. And then what we have to do is we have to lay it down this way and measure this elevation and this elevation and get them both the same. And I've got a little hammer that I tap them around with to get them equal to each other. So let's get over on the surface gauge and get the rest of that. Okay, well, we've got it kind of started, and we've got them close. So I've got my wrench already installed. I'm ready to tighten, and we're going to this square. I've got it on 0. It's just barely coming up about 3 thousandths. Got me on 0 there. When I go to this one's sitting very much off and very much taller there. So we're just going to take our tapper and tap her down. And I'm using my other finger to hold it down tight to the 1, 2, 3 block. And it's a teeter-totter effect. You know, a lot of times we go over to the other one and it changes. But now we've got both squares, you know, somewhat equal to each other. And now we've got one last thing to do. I'm not completely tight here. I'm just barely snug. I'm going to slip my wrench out. And now what we want to do is make certain that our fences are down tight to this 1, 2, 3 block. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. We've got an inconsistent surface here. It's just, scaly and the old machine work and stuff. We're just going to set it on the plate on a couple of paper towels, a folded over paper towel. We're going to clamp it down to the table and tighten our bolt from there. That's going to assure us that we're down tight to those fences, and the paper towel is going to take up any irregularities in the part. So I'm going to bring it out here to the corner of the table, tip you hopefully right here so you can see what I'm doing. Let me tip you down. All right, I'm right on the edge of the table, right there. Can you see what I'm doing? Yes, you can. I'm going to use a Bessie clamp, and this is why I always tell people to get tables with ledges. We're just going to clamp this dude down right here. I'm going to get out just a tad more. You have to be very gentle with it because remember your bolt really isn't tight, just barely snugged. So right now we've pushed that 1, 2, 3 block down tight to both fences. We've got the paper towel there to act as a cushion to take up any irregularities in the square so that they don't try to influence the seating. And then we just take and tighten our Allen bolt firmly, and we made those 1, 2, 3 blocks, or that 1, 2, 3 block and those two squares as one. Now there's one final check to make sure we didn't slip or do anything funny, and that's back over on. Turn you again. Here we go. Let's get you back over there. Take a look at that, and we're going to go here. And we're going to get on that little pad right in the corner, readjust to 0. And if I get it within a half a thou, I'm a pretty happy guy. All right, and look at that, we're all within a half a thou. All right. Yeah, see, you've got a big, scaly, bumpy mess there that you got to grind straight. You can just tell it's just a big, nasty mess. So we're ready to grind here. We're ready to grind here with it sitting down on the plate like this. These are sitting proud, so we can grind those. And just take the whole thing without taking it out and grind these here. And give it one last check. Right down in here. Make sure your fence is sitting down tight to the 1, 2, 3 block. Same thing here. Sitting down tight to the 1, 2, 3 block. That block is, after all that work, those are ready to grind, and that's going to establish parallelism on your fences, and it's going to establish 90 degrees all in one shot. All right, so I got a couple more to set up, and then we'll take them all over and grind them all at once. Okay, so we got a pair of 60/30s. We want to make sure that the tips of our angles clear the plate where we're going to be setting it down here. So you can see we're very close there. It either hits or it doesn't. And what we're doing now is we're doing an alignment. I'm showing you the two squares there down on your 1, 2, 3 block. Your fence is down on top of the 1, 2, 3 block down on the back side now instead of the top, but it's on the back side of the of your angle. And we're just getting them kind of synchronized here so that they're standing up at the same height. And we're pretty darn close. We just need a little more tapping around. You see that? Yeah. And it's going to be more of the same. We're going to take it over to the folded paper towel and clamp it down and tighten up our hardware here. Okay, so we're at the same height on those, and as long as we're down tight this way on the fences, we're going to be ready to grind. So I'm not going to show that. I showed it earlier on how to clamp it in and get it down tight to the table, but let me get this one clamped, and then we've got another one ready to go. Okay, well, your 60/30 should look like this now, bolted in. We've clamped it down. We made sure our fence was down tight here. Now remember, we in part 2 we stoned here and we ground that inside corner, so we should be reasonably parallel here. You know, even though this is just a raw cut surface right now and scaly mess, it should be within a thou or so, which it is. You know, we're running pretty parallel there. And what we've done at this point is we've sent all of our errors in the 90. Yeah, it's running pretty good. That'll be easy to grind. You're only taking out a couple thou to get those trued up and even with each other. Now we've taken all our errors in machine work and sent them over to this side, and plus anything that happened during the heat treat. So let's see what these are all about. And this batch has been running a certain way, so I already know what it's going to look like. I'm going to zero up out here on the tips and see. This is going to tell us how 90 they are, you know. And she's on the climb, coming up a thou, down a half, 2. So they're about 2 thousandths out of square. So then that's a pretty easy grind too. Let's go back to this one, or this other one. Let's get out on the tip of this other one. See, now this one's actually low, and it's on the rise. So these are opposite. These were cut as blanks side by side. So, and then when we milled them, we made them lefts and rights. So it just depends on how the blanks land in the machine when you're cutting them. So these are out of square the opposite way. So we're going to be making contact at diagonal corners and moving our way in, and they're going to true up all at the same time. So that's basically, you've taken all your errors. You've gotten this night as parallel as you can possibly get it with a raw surface here, and you've sent all your errors over to this side. And this is where all the correction comes into play. But we're going to grind both. We can set it on the plate like this, grind, just flip, clean it and flip the whole block and grind, and we've established parallel and 90 degrees all at the same time. All right, and if you've done all your work on the surface plate carefully, you're going to nail it the first time. When you start cutting corners and trying to do it fast over on the surface plate, that's where your errors are going to come from. All right, so we're ready to grind that one. We've got 2 now that are ready to go over to the grinder. I don't even go over to the grinder until I've got at least 6 ready to go. But this setup takes a little while. It takes about 10 minutes per pair for me to set them up. Might take you a little longer. Be patient. Don't get frustrated. Okay, and here's a shop-made block that I made, and I kind of like this one. I wish I had time to make more of them. The only thing about this is it's really square. She's not much to look at. It's only got a couple threaded holes. I'll tell you what I like about this. With the threaded holes and the washers, when we're putting the squares on there, with the independent screws, you're not doing a through bolt, so you don't have one side fighting the other. When a lot of times when you tighten that through bolt, you got one perfect and it affects the other one, or vice versa. But this one we can, we can tap one around and do some. We got a good 0 on that one. But I can come. This one's about 2 thousandths high, so I can come in on this one, and smack it around pretty good. And I don't worry that this one over here is moving because they're completely independent. And I'm just gonna do the snug up trick, just barely snug it, just so I can transfer it over to the paper towel for the clamp. And the only thing about these blocks, you need to make sure they're very square. Okay, so we're at the same elevation on both of those. Happy. The only criteria for these is that they're square, not only on 2 sides, where you're gonna put it down to the mag here, put it down to the mag here. They need to be square on 3 sides, because remember, we're referencing the fence in here, there, and there. So a 3-sided block that's very square, couple of threaded holes, you're done. And it's a good little tool block. This is just a piece of scrap 4140 I had laying around. It's reasonably hard, and I check it every once in a while for squareness, and she's held up pretty good over the years. This backside over here isn't even a reference surface. That could be a bandsaw cut. You wouldn't even care. So that's really the only criteria. You do want it to stand up square this way. You know, that's pretty obvious. You don't want your squares over this way or over this way. But you do want it standing up square on this side and square three sides. So making your own blocks is not out of the question. But now we've got a full starter set ready to go over to the surface grinder and grind up 90 degrees and parallel all at the same time. All right. Okay, well, it's inspection time, and we've got our blocks off the surface grinder, and we're ground here on the top and on the side. And it doesn't do us much good to measure it with it still bolted into this fixture or 1, 2, 3 block. I mean, we can, but all your errors are going to come from getting it in the fixture improperly. I mean, we can come in here and get this zeroed up here and see how much error we got over this little bit, over 2 inches. You know, that's 1/10 over 2 inches. I'll take it. B grade is 1/10 per inch. So, and then we can check here for parallelism. But it's all going to change as soon as we release that bolt. It's definitely going to change. And we're zeroed up there. And sweep across. Yeah, no needle movement at all. Those things are dead parallel. All right. So, I mean, it doesn't do us a lot of good, so we need to release it off of this 1, 2, 3 block and then check it again. And if we didn't get it in the fixture right, if there was a little piece of fuzz, it doesn't take much. It could be anything that would screw these things up. So we need to check them for parallelism and square after we've taken our bolt out and our little fancy hold down hardware here. So let's do it again. And these have been washed and compressed air, blown dry. So we're going to put them back on our 1, 2, 3 block here like this. All right. And bring us over here. We're going to check for rock like I showed you before. No rock detected. If you see a teeter-totter motion on there, you know, because you've checked them before and you know it didn't, when you first ground this inside corner, and you didn't have any rock back then, so you shouldn't have any rock now. There's no reason to acquire that. So if you do get some rock, check for fuzz, check for grit, check for a fingernail or anything you might have left behind. All right, so we're clean, rock free. Check for parallel. You're within 1/10 of parallel, so we're pretty happy there. Let's check the other one. Clean. Check for teeter-totter. I got a little teeter-totter there, so let's give that another quick wipe down. Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay, again within 1/10. Now we're going to check it for square. And I'm going to do it with my Square Master, but you can do it with a cylinder square, with another 1, 2, 3, with an accurate square that you trust, with a comparator, a squareness comparator, whatever you've got that you want to use. I'm going to slide the Square Master over and get it kind of set up here, get my stylus in range. Let me get my little 1/10 tapper here. Get myself up on 0. Now what I've done is I've put a 1, 2, 3 block down on both fences, and I've put the outer extremity of the squares down against the plate. I've rubbed it around, didn't feel anything, and now we're going to check for square over 2 inches, which isn't a lot. I got to reset my 0 here. All right, here we go. Okay, over 2 inches, 1/10. And now we just move over to the other square, which we're already, see what I got them there? I just got them on each side. Now let's just move over to the other square. Get up on 0. And give it a sweep. And again, less than 1/10 over that 2 inches. So I'm happy that we're 90. I'm happy that we're, at this point, we're parallel. This 90-degree fence is parallel. Ground outside, inside, and we're 90. Okay? So that's that was our next step, was getting 90 degrees established. There's so many different ways to check for 90. You could use a comparator. If you've got a cylinder square, you can use that, you know, with the flashlight trick and do it just visually. Or the way I'm doing it, I'm actually making a sweep so I can find bad spots in it, or if it's a bad grind. Sometimes you'll get a hollow grind where you've overheated the part and it'll be kind of saddled. And this will show that up, where a comparator only checks in one location. This Square Master checks over the entire surface. So there's lots of different ways to check for square, and it depends on how well your metrology setup is equipped on how you're going to check. But this is 90 now, and it's going to be all the same for all the other ones, all your other grinds and all your other sizes. And I was just demonstrating on this. All right. Okay, I thought I'd show you the grind to do the 90. We're on a squaring block here. We've got our 3-inch. These are the 3-inch 9045s, and they're bolted to the squaring block. We've got them equal with each other, just the way I showed you over on the plate. And all of our errors, our 90-degree fence is over on this side, so we're grinding the non-fence side. And all of any errors in the machine work, or any discrepancies from being heat treated and all that, are all sent to this side over here. So these two are going to be your worst side. So let's touch off and get these going. I'm going to try to get a little light on it. Maybe you can see better here. And we'll do our touch off dry, and I'll show you, how we've established our heights and how well we did. Let's see how we do. Right, so there's a little touch off there. Let's go over here. Got a little bit of touch off there. Try to move you guys up a little bit here so you can see where I've touched off right here and in that back corner back there. I'm hoping you can see those shiny spots. Alright, but now we can proceed and go ahead and correct these things and correct that angle the rest of the way. You're not going to be able to see much. We're going to have some coolant flying. I'm going to start off with a foul down feed. Coolant going. There we go. We got a little bit better contact there. And better contact there. So we're chasing those out here on the tips. That tells me that the angle was low out here. So let's do another 1,000. Okay, we're about 3/4 of the way out now of cleanup. We still got that last little tip to get. Very small step overs on that thin web there. Doing about 30,000 step overs. Okay, I've got one that's clean all the way out to the tip. The other one is still back, probably about a 1/4 inch from being out at the tip. So these were pretty darn close to being equal. So let's finish them off. And then we'll do a final grind on this. I consider 1/1000th a very heavy grind. The last couple of passes are only going to be a couple of tenths just to shave a little bit of material off of it and get a nice, cool, clean, flat cut on there. It's pretty easy to get a hollow grind, which means it would be saddle shaped. It would be, you're spending more time in the center than you are on the ends, so you end up with a hollow spot in the middle because the material heated up and swelled up in the center and you took out more. Alright, I'm going to shut this down. I'm going to show you what these look like right here. And I've still got some machining marks out on the end, but hopefully you're going to be able to see that. Right out on the tip of this one, you can still see some mill marks. But outside of that, it's fully cleaned up. So it's really close. Another, a few tenths is going to take care of that. And this one's clean all the way out to the tip. I'm hoping the light's catching that right. I got light sources all over the place here. All right. So we'll do a final cleanup. We'll do one more pass at about a 1/2 thou down feed. And I'll do 2 passes at 2/10 each for a final cleanup with coolant running. And there's no heat detected here at all. But any temperature change, that part, especially in the center, is going to swell up, and you're going to grind more away from the center as it's hot. Then when it cools, it retracts, and then you end up with a saddle. So this is, I call that a hollow grind, but it is a phenomenon, and it does happen. So let's finish these up. 1/2 thou down feed. My mill marks are gone. Tenths. Last pass, 2/10. All right. I'm trying to get my hands in the shot so you can see the motion and everything I'm doing here as we're working our way across. Magnet off, and we're going to pull our part. And before we do the flip, we need to clean. We've got all kinds of this junk all over the place. It's been running down the front of this block. This block needs to be cleaned. I keep a little squeegee. We squeegee this off and give it a hand wipe. And then we're going to set back up this way and get those tops. There's going to be a lot less to remove on these tops because remember, we stoned this in part 2. We stoned this down and then cut our inside corner in relationship to this. So that's why I was telling you, all your errors from 90 degrees get sent to this side out here. So this side is maybe a 2-3 thousandths and it'll be cleaned up. All you're gonna have to take out is any inclusions, any bad spots in either the machining or from the heat treating. But you can tell from the stoning, they're gonna be pretty close. All right, let me go get this washed off. I'll bring you back. Okay, welcome back. We're clean here. I'm using a flat stone. This is a Norton India stone that I've ground with a diamond wheel, so it's very flat, and I made it flat on 3 sides. So these are very parallel and very flat, and this is very, the little short side is 90 degrees and very flat as well. So we're just gonna come in on the table here, make sure we don't have anything funny going on there, and then we're just gonna do the bottom of our block just really quick. Believe me, if there's something there, you're gonna feel it. If there's a high spot on there, a low spot we don't care about, a high spot we do. So clean, and always do your grinding all in the same spot. I do mine way out in the center. I use the center bolt for this front fence. I use that to center up my block, make sure I'm going in the same spot every time, and stick it down, and we're ready to grind our tops on that back corner right there. Okay, let's touch off dry. We'll move across it and see where we're hitting, and then we'll start the coolant and get going from there. A little light on it. Just an inkling of a spark. We'll just do about, there we go. Alright, I've got a little bit of contact all the way across. Got a little shiny spot here, and that comes out to over here. Let's go to the other one, see what kind of contact we're making there. Alright, we're ready to grind. We're going to do 1 thou down feed, coolant. That was almost a full clean right there. Just a little bit out here. It's not going to take that much more to get this done. We got one little corner out here at the tip. Same thing over there. Some machine marks over there. So just, not much. I'm gonna go a half thou, see how we do, see that turkey cleans up. Still there. We'll do another half thou. Okay, I'm happy there. We do our 2/10, run back. Another 2/10 and then head back, and that should do it. That's it. Here, I'll show you that. Get all the junk off of it. All right, so that's our top grind. That's our side grind, and we mimicked this angle here and converted it into these angles here. So let's go wash this up and take it over on the plate. I'll show you how I measure this set. And quantify your measurements. You're going to be checking parallelism and 90, not at the same time. And but let's go over to the plate and measure these up. Okay, so we're clean. We're back over on the plate. And it really doesn't do you any good to do any measuring with it still pinned down to the block. You know, she's bolted to the block, and you might get one reading here, and as soon as you release it, if you made any errors in installing it on the block, they're not going to become evident until you release it. So the squares are not going to be bolted to the block for the rest of their lives, so they need to measure correctly released. All right. But you get the idea of how these all went together. So let me get these unbolted, and then I'll show you how to measure them. Okay, well, we're back over on the plate, and we're going to use the same block that we ground with to measure. Everything's clean. I got my 3-inch squares here loose, and we're going to check parallelism of the block we're measuring to. And I've already set it. So we should see a 0 there, and we're just going to make a pass across. Okay, so we're nice and parallel there, so we trust this surface to measure from. We know no real errors exist right here. And we're going to take this guy and get the hair off of it. Where'd that hair come from? Wow. Okay, let's get rid of that. That's no good. And you want to make sure that your inside fence is very clean. I use a lint-free towel. Put your fingernail down in that groove and just rub it across. And then it's a lot like putting gauge blocks together. You're going to come in and slide your part on, so anything that gets in there is going to fall out of the way. Tap it down, and now we can measure for parallelism on 3-inch. Let's establish a 0 here. Okay, let's get it there. Tighten, 0. Pretty happy there. We're going to check for rock. None detected. We're looking for teeter-totter. And let's let it fall off and come back up. So make sure she snaps back to 0. And then we're just going to slide our block across here and see how much error we get over 3 inches. Okay, so my read is 1/10 over 3 inches, which is well within spec. So parallel, we got it. Let's move on to squareness. Get this out of the way. And we're going to bring the Square Master over. Let me show you how I set these up. Now we're going to set it down on the outer extremity. Sorry for the noise. And I've already cleaned these and stoned them. So make sure they're sitting down flat on the table. And then use something to add some weight to them. You know, I just rest my block back on the fences. But this is what I kind of want to see here, with your square sitting proud, and you're able to get in there and use the weight of the block to keep them from keep the indicator from pushing them away. And we're going to use our little tapper to get us where we want to be. Okay, we got a good 0. Can you see the gauge? No, shit. All right, we're going to make a sweep up. We're at the top. And I'm pretty sure you can see it now. Can I put a shadow on that? 1/10 below is where you're at with it. Trying to shadow that so you can see it. Okay, and we'll make a sweep down. We should return to 0 on the way down, which we do. All right, let's move over to the other square. Yeah, we're just using the weight of the block to keep the spring tension in the indicator from pushing away. The squares don't weigh that much, and that spring in the indicator will push them out of the way, and you'll get bad readings. So we're just using the weight of the block to hold them in place. Okay, we're going to make another sweep. And not even a 1/10. So it's these are very, very square. Now, you know, we did 2 things at once, and I want to talk about this. Let's say you've ground your parallel and your square, and maybe you didn't get it parallel, but you got it square. You know, you nailed the square, but man, you're just not happy with the parallel. Don't panic. You're going to be able to go back in, register this against the fence, and go back in there and touch up that little groove and get it parallel without affecting the outside square. So it is possible to make one change without affecting the other. I know it was a lot to do because we had to establish parallel and square all at the same time, But if you don't nail it, if you nailed your square and you didn't nail your parallel, don't panic. You can always go back in there and touch that up. Remember, we still got to do that on this side too. We haven't touched this inside groove here yet. So when we go in there and butt up in there, run that inside there, we can very easily flip and go in there and touch that up at the same time. So you can come back to it, make a felt pin mark on it to remind you that that's out of spec if it is. So don't panic if they get away from you. Alrighty, but that's 90 degrees. Thanks for watching. Okay, guys, in closing, I'd like to thank everyone that watched all the way through and people that expressed interest in these kits. We are making the kits right now, and we hope to have them ready by the middle of October. We've got a 3-inch batch that got the webs thinned. They just need the web cutouts done, and they're ready to go to harden. 2 inches are done. 60/30s are over on the mill getting milled up right now. So we're going to have 10 kits ready to go in October when this thing breaks, and hopefully when this video series is finished. I want everyone to watch the video series first so you know what you're getting into. I don't want anyone buying these things blind and then saying, oh man, I can't do it, or I don't have the tooling to do it. So I want to be very transparent about as much as I can on all of this. All right, everybody, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for part 4 where we grind the hypotenuse.